Dude, that's sexy.
You like that?
Yeah, man.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the second episode here. I am so excited to be here with Ben Moore. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. But yeah, let's just jump into this, Ben. I guess to start off, just kind of tell us your story. If you want to give background of kind of your childhood going into the military to where you are now, just
Yeah, man. So, what I remember, things, my memory is like a weird, sort of a weird animal. But yeah, when I was my dad left at 1 year old. My mom raised me all by herself. Basically the whole time. When I was 15, she remarried another, or her current husband. And then I worked in the bicycle business with them for a number of years, and then didn't join the Army. My mom got sick with cancer. So she got cancer, fought that for 3-4 years. And
is this when you were in your teens?
This is when, now I was like 24.
Okay.
24. And then she died in March of 2010. And that's when, like, I lost my mind, basically, and became an alcoholic, and just was like partying all day to bury my emotions, trying to not figuring it out, just trying to like run in as hard as I could until the thing broke. So something happened, and I decided to join the Army. I was like, fuck it, man, let's give it a shot. My mom was against me joining the military before, so I was like, this is my shot, my chance to like give her the old fuck you, you know, in a funny way, obviously.
Right.
But so yeah, I joined the Army, and while I was in the process of joining, I got my girlfriend pregnant. So, you know, we got to figure out logistics. We need to figure out food. Like, for me, it's like turn into the training model that my mom did to me when she was whooping my ass. So I need to figure out how to take care of the situation. So the Army was already started, so I was like, this is perfect. So I'm just going to jump in, keep going. And, yeah, so I've done that up to now. I'm still in the Army, but, working through sort of a complicated process of like leaving and having, it's a very difficult medical situation, if you know what I'm saying. And the Army is like a very stubborn machine. So I've got doctors, private physicians that are fighting the Army in not a non-procedural way with paperwork, because the Army's not listening to them. So I'm sort of working through that, and that's where we are now. So, but yeah, back to a few years ago when I noticed that my kids were outside playing. I think we were talking about this before.
Yep.
That was my breaking point. Like, I noticed through all that process that my kids were outside, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm just like watching. I'm like, I'm going to watch. And it was like weird, like this knife, like a knife inside of you, all the time, like an aching pain. And so I didn't know anything else to do. I knew that antidepressants didn't really work, any more than placebo, really. So I really didn't know any alternative. So I remembered an experience that, Mike Gearheiser, sorry to make you say your name, but he got introduced me to mushrooms in 2013. Got them to my house with me, and he goes, "Hey, dude, you want some mushrooms?" I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good idea. So he had this film canister filled with powdered mushrooms, and so we made tea.
One second. I want you to hold this thought,
Okay.
but I just want to give people some background here. So before the show, me and Ben were just talking about how he was feeling at this specific time of his life, where, like he said, it was hard for him to even want to go play with his kids. So that you were in the military at this time,
No.
but it sounds like there was a mix of things that were making you feel this way, because you were already going through some things before you joined the military. Yes. Then you have the kid. Did the military add on to this at all, or what do you attribute that feeling to?
Yeah, no, definitely. So for me personally, and then now studies are showing this is a real thing, like childhood trauma is a precursor for adult trauma. and also childhood trauma is a precursor for joining the military. And the military is a precursor for post-traumatic stress disorder and, you know, all the other number of mental health disorders. So this is like a paradigm. And it's just as human nature, obviously. This is what we're drawn to do. Because when you have a rough childhood, when you're abused in whatever, you seek out family. And the biggest, most badass family there is the military. So people are like, I want to join the military as a thing, but then obviously re-traumatize themselves. So that's basically what happened to me. Yeah, when I was, God, I don't know how old, 10, 11, I was sexually abused by my neighbor. And my dad's situation was always very difficult. And my mom died like right in front of me. So I had a lot of shit that I was carrying around. And then, you know, I'm like, I'm going to join the Army. And then so I joined the Army, obviously, and the same things. I didn't go into combat, but, you know, training stress. I almost died on a mountain, you know, of hypothermia. So it was cold. And so that brought me to, you know, that point where it was like the real break, you know, noticing now, thank God I had a wife the whole time. Thank God I had a wife the whole time that was like always supportive of me and always like helping me to help. She's basically my healer the whole time. Like I look at her that way now. Like she's healed me. And the whole time she was doing this, like helping me along, helping me process it. So I never had like a crash. Like a lot of people, a lot of soldiers, a lot of regular people, I guess we're all regular people, but that's what it is. Like we crash, but there's no one to catch us because we don't have a support system. And it's really sad because in the society, it's not like something that's like fostered or taught, like support each other in a way because we're always competing and competition drives people apart, regardless of if you believe in it or not, whatever it does. It creates separation, which makes people feel like they're against each other in some way, shape or form, values, choices. So then we're less likely to create a narrative of shared pain because that's what lessens it.
And that's what your wife helped you work through?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So how, like, was there a specific point where it was like rock bottom? Or was it like an extended period of time that you were feeling a certain way and then these mushrooms came into your life? Oh,
no. So remembering the experience I had, so I remember sitting on my couch and looking down, and I had my gun in my hand, and I had no idea how I got there, like whatever had happened before that, like basically blackout. And so I ran upstairs and woke my wife up. I'm like, I want to kill myself. Like I need help. I really need help. And yeah, it was bad. And I remembered through that process, obviously I'm abbreviating things, but through that, the few days or weeks after that, like processing it and remembering the experience I had in 2013 with my friend Mike, who gave me mushrooms from a pill bottle and introduced me to, you know, what's the soundtrack? Inception, the Hans Zimmer. There's a song called Time. It's like, if you go on YouTube, you can find it. It's like a 10-hour constant repeat of this song. So I remember taking mushrooms and going through and listening to this music. He gave me like a blackout eye shades, and it blew my mind. And I remembered it, and I'm like, let me try that. I'm like, let me try that because I remember that experience being so orgasmic, like my body was just exploding.
And that was years before.
This was in 2013.
Yep.
But I'm remembering this in 2018. Okay. So yeah, so I remember my body was exploding, like I was basically an orgasm, just like a toroidal donut shaped process. And yeah, and then it was like, let me try that because that felt pretty fucking good. So I grew mushrooms. I figured out how to grow them myself. So I got the grain, the spore, the culture, inseminated it, all that stuff, and grew my own mushrooms, and then I ate them, a shitload of them.
So after you had this experience of you on the couch with your gun, it was kind of like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. But you just had the memory. Like, I remember this time when I took mushrooms back in 2013 where I felt so good.
Yes.
I want to go back to that feeling.
Yes.
Which then led you to getting the supplies and knowledge to grow your own mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I told my wife, I say, wife, Sam, my love, I said, I'm going to go be downstairs. We got a 2-story house, thankfully. I said, keep the kids upstairs and the dog. I'm going to take a bunch of mushrooms downstairs and see what happens. So she sat telling me this now. I had no idea. I had the music up. I just would like spread my couch apart and like make a big sofa bed on the floor or pillow fort on the floor because I had kids. So they taught me that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the important lesson too. Let your kids teach you shit. Sorry.
Your kids are your guru.
Oh, dude, they taught me how to build a pillow fort, and that's what I laid on and made because all pillows all over the floor, and so I laid on that, and now I know that my wife sat upstairs listening, but like she heard me talking in tongues, talking to myself as my mom, talking to the gods and the goddesses, like floating across the like literally seeing myself as like this thing like going across the desert, just like giving life to everything. Like it was the most mind-blowing thing. And that's when I said, I don't want to die anymore. Like I want to figure out everything about myself. You know what I mean? But it's still a conflict. It's still like a real emotional thing that I deal with. But that like my higher self is like, that's all I want to do. I want to figure out all the most awesome shit and re-experience it all.
So that mushroom experience was almost like a flip from, I don't see the point of this, I don't want to do this, to like, okay, my life has meaning again. Yeah. I want to explore this, see what this means. Like this is something deeper than what I've ever known.
Oh, dude. Beyond, man.
Right.
Beyond.
And beyond it's crazy how it's just a mushroom. Like something so natural.
It's us.
Yeah.
No, it's I believe it's like it got bored however many millions of years ago, panspermia. The comet that killed the dinosaurs. Pachamama could have had, it's a spore. It lands and eats and reprocesses, the only thing that can survive the vacuum of space. So the likelihood of it being the only possible that we know thing that's possible to bring life from other places is a spore. Mm-hmm. Its surface is harder than the surface of a diamond. It can survive space indefinitely. So yeah, that is most likely how we're here, and it made us because that was the first thing. So if the first thing, we're just however many generations down the road. So that's us, and it gave it. I think it gave us those. It's like a healing us. Mm-hmm.
It's a technology.
Like if they follows around, it's a technology of the plants. They follow the cattle, they follow the hoofed animals and grow from it because they know humans are there. Mm-hmm. So we eat them because it heals us.
So these spores, they're very small. We can barely see them, correct?
Microscopic.
Yeah. So these things are traveling like on cows, and they'll grow out of cow shit, basically cow pies. And it's like, I think what you're getting to is that this spore has an intelligence, even though it's so small.
Oh, absolutely.
It has an intelligence that it knows what it's doing and getting to us and wants to help us.
Without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. We haven't touched the surface. I mean, the thing about scale, miniaturization, it's like, the smallest thing is an atom. Well, now we can split those things. And so there's not the smallest thing, and there's smaller scales. And then now there's things that are moving faster than the speed of light. So there's all these possibilities. And if we're getting infinitesimally or infinitely faster in speed, obviously size becomes irrelevant. So yeah, why wouldn't a full network of neurons be inside of a spore? Just different than ours, but no different than, it's all energy.
It's crazy too when you look at an image of the mycelial network, how similar it is to the structure of our brain.
Oh yeah.
And it almost seems like the mycelial network that's underground is like nature's internet, or it's nature's brain.
Oh, definitely. Well, it sends it sends nutrients to trees and fauna. It definitely is a high intelligence being.
Have you seen Fantastic Fungi?
No.
Oh,
no.
Great movie. Check it out. It's with Paul Stamets. I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
But I want to keep going on your story a little bit. So after you had this mushroom experience that completely changed your perspective on life, seemed to give you meaning again, what happened next?
Yeah. So once I exploded and realized, all that stuff, I basically just said I needed to keep going. There's more to learn. So I just started. I guess it gave me the inspiration to sort of create a framework around how I can give myself medicine. Like basically the medicine was like, or the plants, medicine was like telling me you need to change this about your lifestyle because you need to take more of me. Like you need to take me more, not like in a, like I'm in this a necessity way, like I'm driven to medicate myself. It's more like create a healthy, holistic lifestyle so you can use more medicine because it's good for us.
And it was communicating this with you.
Yeah, I mean, through not like words, but it was driving my intentions. You know what I'm saying? So like making me more thoughtful about what I did every day. Stop drinking milk because it's just weird to me. I mean, it's cool, it's great, it's awesome, just weird to me. So like I started drinking like nut milk or nut juice or whatever people calling it these days, but it tastes good. And that's really all that matters. It tastes good to me, so it replaces that, and then just fruits and vegetables because that gives me the nutrients I need so I can take care of myself physically, like working out, stretching, yoga, and doing medicine.
So what other, besides like eating healthy, like I guess at this point it was just mushrooms, right?
Yep.
So what did they, like kind of what did that life look like that they tried to lay in front of you?
You're looking at it.
So what is that? Like what's a day in the life of Ben Moore look like?
Yeah, so I basically like 95% of my diet's all fruits. I eat like meat. 5% of my diet's like meat. And brew my own kombucha. So inspired by my friend, he gave me as a gift a 5-gallon jug. So to brew kombucha in. So I've been brewing it constantly for a while, and it's super important, I think, to address your gut health. We know that there's 500 million neurons made in the gut. So we feed our brain. I mean, it feeds directly into our brain. So yeah, all that stuff is super important. The high bacteria content in fruits, like fresh fruits, are important in your gut, in your body. You need those. Like we're part of the earth. We're part of that network. If we came from the original source, like why are we like purifying that out of ourselves? Everything in the middle, it's like a weird thing, but everything in the middle of the grocery store that's in like these bags are like vacuum sealed or carbon dioxide or nitrogen. There's all dead. There's nothing living in there. And so when there's living things, it's like pre-processing the foods, and it like marries your gut bacteria, and it works better. Yeah. I mean, science is showing this stuff. It's not like a mystery, it's as without and it's also within, it's inside of us.
Yeah. Diet is absolutely huge. And I think it's really fascinating how these mushrooms like helped you realize that and led to this life. Yeah. So one, they allowed you to have the awareness that you needed to adjust your diet. What were some other things that you needed to make adjustments for?
Time, intentions, like making your bed. I'm not necessarily saying I make my bed, because that's one of the things as a team, me and my wife, we sort of willingly partnered with each other and pick up the slack of each other's necessities. And so the intentions that the medicine taught me is like to communicate. Like literally, it's the weirdest thing. It just makes me, or it made me in a way inspired, I think, or at least it gave me the perspective to do it myself, if that even is a thing, to stop, slow down, and ask other people like what they need too, because we trounce around like these mindless beings, people driving their cars, like no one notices anything going on around them, and so the plants were like, hey, slow down, Like there's things that are going on around you. You know, look at everything around you because the world needs you in those ways. Like, and it's different, and the messages are different for everybody. But yeah, that's sort of what me personally. It's like the barefoot thing. Like I'm barefoot almost all the time because I want to feel the ground because I want to know like what my feet are doing, like what steps I'm taking, and that made me communicate better with my wife. Made me see what my kids were doing more because I slowed everything down. Because all this like data processing with like the phone and the news and the movies and the entertainment, it's like I recognize it was like, it's the distraction. Like that's it. Like that's the answer. You have to turn it off. Once you turn it off and you start putting good shit in your body, like fruits and vegetables and things that are alive, you start breaking the pattern. The pattern is what people are stuck in. It's like the addiction model. We're in the addiction model. We are in the information addiction virus, COVID virus, whatever we want to call it. Not that it's not real, that it's real, but it's also being hijacked. Other things, it's everything. So breaking that from the front of the view is monumental, I think, for me, because people are so stuck in that.
Yeah, I think the shift from becoming a consumer where you're just taking in all this stuff, all this information, all this news, all these videos, all this stuff that's coming from corporations that are trying to get money from you, driving all these advertisements. Have you seen The Social Dilemma?
No.
It's a show on Netflix.
Yeah,
it's fascinating how it's on Netflix, but it's all these guys who started like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, talk about why they left because they saw how unethical it was getting, and basically that these platforms, their main goal is to get your attention.
That's it.
As much as possible, and they're being designed by like geniuses, like psychologists, people who know how to get your attention. So like,
well, that's the danger. The ethical practices, this is like one thing you say in the world, like if you are an institution educating doctors of medicine, of the brain, we should not be hiring them to work for companies like that. Yeah, you can do it legally. Like we can do anything, but like, it's not ethical. So just stop doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what's happened. Because they're hiring these psychologists.
Yeah, and we're vulnerable. No matter, like we're gonna get addicted to it.
There is no defense that has been created in the human genome for social media. That was like whoops, we started that fire. So it's like now we have to process that. And I think that's the complication. But the psychology of the human brain that's been studied and exploited since the 40s when we brought over Ed Bernays to sell the war to the American people and like completely influenced all this political process up till now. Like we still do it because psychology you can't hack it. It is what it is. So once they understand the system, it's just marketing and it's just greed, really. It's not like these overlords, people going like casting spells. It's greed. But when you know the psychology and you know the patterns and study that's why all these studies or statistics are important because it builds the patterns that they can create the marketing to sell whatever the fuck they want to sell.
And I think the biggest thing is, first of all, becoming aware of that it's happening. So then you can actually disconnect from it and then regain that sense of presence, and slowing down and awareness and connecting with the people around you. But I go back to that quote, like it's hard to get people out of a prison that they don't know they're in.
Yes. Well, it's difficult because you can't compulse people to healing themselves. That's the same thing as fighting them. It's like, let me fight you so you have peace. I will fight you and I will show you how to be peaceful. That doesn't make any sense. You know, it's the opposite of that. You know, China's doing it sort of. I mean, I think in a more malicious way, but they're occupying and building places all over the world at countries' bequest for financial support. And now China's wanting their money, obviously, but we could do that without that. We could do it with like good intentions. Yeah. Because we're doing it anyway in a destructive way. We could just make it in a non-destructive way. Literally, it's a consciousness shift. That's what the plants help with.
Yeah.
It's like the destructive mind.
So these plants, and your journey have absolutely been essential for your healing and processing everything you've went through.
Yes. Yeah, because it helps, like cannabis, helps to downregulate the ego, allows you to feel more. I think a lot of the difficulty with people who have depression, bipolar, extreme form, PTSD, it's like the shield that they carry around. People don't want to feel. It hurts to feel, so we don't want to feel. And that's what the struggle is, because once you feel, you don't know what to do with it, and then you explode, and then that's when people end up killing themselves. Mm-hmm. But the plants allow you to feel yourself and feel your emotions from like a non-judgmental perspective. So you can like re-feel all the bad shit, abuse, whatever it is, but you can like do it without judgment. So then you can re-experience it. Now it can be on your terms. You sort of own it in a way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Well, for me, anyway. Obviously, everybody's independent of that, but like that, it's super helpful because that's what they're here for. We cut the ground. We cut the ground, and the planet gives us plants that we can eat to.
Mm-hmm. That's how we were designed.
To trip.
That's how we were designed.
That's what we're designed. Exactly. It's like, hey, you're hurt. Like, heal yourself. Your mind's hurt. Heal yourself, because you hurt your body. Your mind's hurt too. Mm-hmm. But we're only addressing the wound on the surface. There is really a whole thing.
It's all connected.
Yes.
And it's, for me, when I've used these medicines, I've had sensations in my body while I'm processing certain emotions or things that makes me feel and see that this event or this emotion was trapped in my fascia, and working through it with the plants releases something in my body and really shows you how it's all connected.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it works, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, it works.
So
it works.
I absolutely agree. So after, like, what did your medicine journey look like after that first mushroom experience?
So I after that, I consciously decided I was going to do a regimen once a month. I was going to take a hero's dose,
So how many grams did you do that first time?
5.
Mm-hmm.
5. 4. I think 4.5. 4.5 or 4.
And then after that, you made the plan, like, I need to do this once.
I needed to do it more. And so the next one I did was 5. And it was like the same. It's more the same shit. It's like I'm laying here, my mom's standing over me, like, telling me you're okay, like a lot of that stuff. And that's really the healing part, I think, for me, was able to see, because I obviously I didn't forgive myself for not spending enough time with my mom before she died. I wish I would have. I mean, probably really, I probably spent as much time as I possibly could, but like the guilt person inside of you is like, did I do this wrong? Did I say this wrong before she couldn't hear again? So I struggled with that for a long time. And so a lot of my healing was her, mm-hmm. Telling me it's okay, or like telling me that, there's all this all part of this plan, like everything's good. So that helped me quite a bit. And that was the plants. Mm-hmm. That was the plants.
So that's what you were experiencing when you were doing your once a month ceremonies?
Yes, once a month.
How long did you do that for?
Indefinitely. I still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once a month.
Once a month.
Sit with
minimum.
a mushroom.
Yeah. Minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, people discount the value of play, I think. And like, that's part of the process.
Get a little closer.
Sorry. People discount the value of play.
Mm-hmm.
Like being a kid, but like, it's not really being a kid. Like, cause we're not really even adults. Like, that doesn't even exist. We just invented it. We're like, we're going to make some really super, super tight squares. You're going to jam yourself in there. If you don't fit, make yourself a square so you can fit in there. That's what we've created as society. And then, so we don't play anymore. Mm-hmm. It's so rigid. And school's really teaching that. And that's really that. And so my kids are homeschooled. My wife's got this like online deal with like ABC Mouse and some other programs, which that's the truth, is now we have this abundance of education. So now you can, like, if you think the world is messed up, take your kids away from it. Because if you're offering your children to it, everyone's fighting this whole program. It's like, let me revolutionize the world. just take your kids away from it. So that's what we did. And we're giving our kids all the, my wife's got some learning program, but still giving them, because they're traveling and experiencing the world in a different way, in a non like sitting in a classroom way. Like, let's go to Mexico.
This is a fascinating concept. I've heard a lot of people doing this recently. Like, I think they call it unschooling.
Yeah.
And it's just learning through experience.
Yeah.
Not learning through sitting in a room and reading
It's
a
silly.
book. Yeah.
It's silly.
So
it
what,
doesn't make any sense.
What have you guys been doing with your kids lately?
Well, not COVID, you know. Well, COVID was the inspiration to take them out of school. But since COVID, we've been to Florida a few times, Austin, San Antonio. We tubed one of the rivers. Was that pre-COVID? God, man, this COVID is like done the time warp for me.
It has.
Well, because we're like doing the isolation thing. But I think this was this year. This was during COVID. This is before they did the violent shutdown. So the experience thing, I think that, and they're only 5 and 7. So sort of open the horizons as age requires, because really the truth is they're allowed to still be kids. And we've done that, like violently ripped childhood away from kids and programmed into them, like, by 7, you should be doing this, this, and this. Like, we get the basics down, but like, let's continue to like be allowed to be outside, running around, building fires, whatever you want to do as a kid, discovering and playing, and that in the point of life. And so like we have all these like disabilities and disorders. Like I had ADD, ADHD, or whatever they call it. And so my son and daughter both have it. So what do you think? Of course they want to put them on medicine, because like, you got to sit in this classroom, but that's not the point. They only have a disability because they're trying to make them do the shit in the classroom. Like, let them go outside. So we do the fun parenting, I think, unparenting, as you said, it exists. So yeah, I think that's an instrumental thing in the future in making this world better, because if you give your kids I know, I'm sorry, I go on tangents, but if you give your kids, it's like that's your time capsule. And you can't teach it to people. You have to live it. You can't teach it. Like, teaching is like what's happened for the last 1,600 years, you know, or however many hundred years since 347 AD or whatever, when the Roman Church came and swiped its swords. But yeah, so it's been since then. Like, it's been this law and order, and it's not real. So
it's instead of, because obviously your kids are still learning.
Yes.
Just as much, but it's just a different style of doing it. It's, you are playing with them. You are experiencing these things with them. You are not handing over their precious, vulnerable, programmable brain over to a school. No, it's hang out with us and we'll just show you and do cool stuff. That's awesome.
And then, you want to learn? So yeah, obviously, like I said, we have a program that she follows. But my kid's like, the other day, he's like, Dad, I need to learn how to do these multiplications because I need to know these numbers. I'm like, what for? He's like, because he plays video games. So just for some numbers, but he's already predisposed to asking to learn. Like, we don't have to beat it into him. So it's nice, and it's more relieving on us. Like, as adults, we've put this like crazy fence around like being a parent. Like, we have to be official. Like, don't tell your kids you take medicine. Don't tell your kids you cuss. Don't tell your kids you do this. That's like, why are we doing that?
Just be real.
Yeah, because that's the future. And if you want your kids to be what you are and what your world is, yeah, you can make them what you are. But if you want a better world, like, make them different. So
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that like, and really the truth is you have to live as an example. You can't like teach it. It's living, embodying what you believe. Because then you don't have to tell people. They're just like, hey, they ask, they're like, hey, what do you do with yourself? You know, and anyone can do it. It's just like, I'm not saying like there's this magical potion. Like, this is just fucking plants, and the whole world gave it to us.
Is there any other medicines you've been dancing with besides mushrooms?
Yeah. So, mushrooms, yes. 5-MeO DMT is in regular DMT. I I'm not really too into regular DMT. I think my eyes, I want to see everything that's like,
You're saying like the smokable NN DMT?
Yeah, NN DMT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
you're good.
And then the lingo. But yes. And then 5-MeO DMT, obviously, Bufo.
Yeah.
I guess formerly known as Alvarius now. Ancilius. Bufo Ancilius.
That is 5-MeO DMT.
Well, yeah. Well, among other things. But yes. 5-MeO is the molecule that, it's the God molecule, the universe, the oneness, the connection, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
So you've been using mushrooms to guide me along with 5-MeO DMT. How often do you say you go on a ceremony with the toad?
Once a month, 2. Same thing. It's more of a flexible process because a toad is a much shorter acting tryptamine. So you can sort of build your own model as you want to. For me, there was a period when when you first get anything, you want to play with it like it's a toy. That's the same thing with like our brain in a healthy way, because we now know this is like, there's neurogenesis, like it's healing ourselves, like it's not harmful. It's like, let's exercise our brains. So I've been using that probably every few weeks in a non-ceremonial way, just more like improvised, like it's like a purgatory. So feeling like when you feel like you're full of just bad energy, I have the vape pen, so you can just vaporize it. So it's super easy to do. But yeah, it's helped me to like lighten my load. Right. I think you could say.
So with the Ascend project still being so new, I have a built-in audience. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I come from a small town. So a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this are from small town Minnesota, very conservative. And when they hear these things, they're going to be like, these guys are crazy talking about drugs.
Yes.
So just like, what are the biggest misconceptions about plant medicines, psychedelics, and what would you say to these people?
Well, first I would say we'll talk about verbiage, like words. Like we did the DARE thing, taught us drugs. It's a bad word. Like it really is. Not saying it's a bad word not to use it, but just more like recognizing that when we say that, people are like, probably a bad thing. But like entheogens, absolutely. So yes, so this stuff is safe. It's legitimately safe. All the studies are showing it. It's 2016. John Hopkins released the mind-blowing, mind-altering study that everyone references, including myself. Like it doesn't matter.
It's crazy.
Like this is the safest thing. This is safer than aspirin.
Yeah.
Physiologically,
psilocybin's actually safer for your brain and body than apple juice.
Yeah, man, dude. so that's the whole point. It's like if you don't, I'm sorry, but if you don't believe it, like Google it, because it's real and it's like what limitations should a human being be able to tell another human being how to do it? Right.
Yeah, I think part of what I want to do is just help shift the stigma because these are things that I feel like it's a birthright. It's like it's having sex, having a good meal, having water. Like this is your birthright to have this psychedelic experience from these plants that we evolved with. Yes. And we're at a point in society where we are disconnected from nature.
Well, it's weird, right?
It is weird.
But it's weird the further away you get, the more you want to leave it. Not like you or me personally, but like as the whole. I don't know if it's like it's because that's our minds have like lubricated things because it's information is easy. It's really tangibly easy to do because you can pick up your phone, you can share a bunch of stuff, get all your entertainment. It's really become like our connection to the virtual world, which just exists in radio waves, and we're not moving our body as much. And the plants are like, tell your brain, it's like, break that pattern and then, hey, body, go do stuff. Yeah. And I don't know if there's like some person doing some like electronic jazz in another dimension or whatever it is, but like it tells you to like pay more attention to stuff. Yeah. And it breaks you from that.
Yeah. I've tried to try to decipher what it is, because it's almost like it's definitely an intelligence, but it's something communicating with you.
Yes.
Like the mushroom has a personality. It has
Oh,
a
yes,
consciousness.
yes.
It talks to you.
Dude, I can remember them. I remember. I'm like telling my wife. I'm like, I remember this one time. I'm like, I want to go back and hang out with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely a cool independent, or the interdependent personalities in the medicines.
And it seems like, obviously from your story, these seem to be amazing at healing PTSD, depression, suicidal ideation. So like, what would you just say are the biggest misconceptions about these plants are, and maybe offer a different perspective of how to look at them through?
Well, I mean, I think we first got to realize that if we just deleted all the technology around us and like we're on the ground, we would probably not tell people not to eat that plant or not to eat that plant. And that's really what they are. And they may make you a little funky to the external, just like coffee does. You know, you ever drink a pot of coffee? So it's a beautiful ride. It's a beautiful ride. This is the most amazing experience you could ever imagine being on. And the medicine is like, the medicine has broken the tractor beam, or it's just so weird. And it's like, I can't even explain it sometimes. I don't know if you feel this way.
Yeah,
it's just like,
we're not doing it any justice by using words to describe it. There truly isn't language to describe these experiences of what it feels like, what it is. Like, just know that the only way to really know about these things is to
consume it,
to experience it directly.
And that's the key, is setting and intentions.
Yeah.
You know, so often people just eat a bunch of mushrooms or eat a bunch of acid or take a bunch of Molly or whatever, and they don't have any sort of container. Mm-hmm. And so they're just like, have a problem. And that's where like the statistics thing comes in, where they're like, wait, it's bad for you. It's all this. Well, it's just adult responsibility. It's like when you're going to go party, you're going to put your dress on or your suit on or whatever you're going to wear to go to a nightclub or a bar. It's the same thing. Like, set your container, put pillows down, like put a good playlist on, positive shit. Like, what happens in my perspective, when you go deep, is like you crack open this like antenna, because we're definitely an antenna of some sort. Dude, we have like little miniature antennas that send full imagery.
I love this.
Dude,
keep going.
So we're an antenna. So yeah, so like the music is going to directly penetrate you. Like, you can, I don't know if you felt this before, like on mushrooms. For me, like, when music is made with like malintent, like it feels like I want to get sick. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, I got to change this. Yeah. Like, you can feel it.
And it, not even just mushrooms, like even marijuana.
No, yeah.
Like, you can almost feel the intention behind this person who made that.
Yes.
You can feel the emotion and feel how it affects your energetic body, your physical body, your mind. So like, when we have these positive playlists playing,
it's real.
It's real.
Well, so what's behind the music? It's just like taxes. Like, what's behind the music? Are they just getting a bunch of writers together that are psychology majors and making music that sounds good, but it's like bad for you? Mm-hmm. Or are these, and that's all there is, like on Bandcamp, and other places that are like more independent, like direct to consumer sales, like record labels are gone. That's where the music's at. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where the real shit's at. That's where the shit, when your shit's cracked open.
Bandcamp?
I've
never heard of Bandcamp.
Yeah, dude. I'll send you some playlists, man.
For sure.
But when you're cracked open, you got to put the goodness in there.
Music's like, absolutely instrumental to guiding you.
It is, exactly. And like the misconception that like we have to go find a healer to heal us. Like, there's no healers. The plants are the healers. We're custodians of the plants. Like, really, you can heal ourselves. Grow fungus and eat it. Mm-hmm. And and then it'll build whatever regimen you think that you should build.
Right.
But it starts with intentions, really.
So even people who say aren't suffering from crippling PTSD or depression, like, why would anyone want to take this if they don't even have the intention of needing to heal those things?
Why not? It's a human optimization question. So like, I'm starting to more believe, like we talk about this like disability, to create these word narratives, like I've been saying. There's no such thing really, obviously physically disabled. But when you're talking about like these mind injuries, they're mind injuries. They're not like you got your arm ripped off. They're healable. And so that is obviously a wide use for this stuff, but also the ability for them to let you play and be a human and communicate with the world and like let it teach you things, because that's what's going to heal this. Like we're seeing it in society now. Like cannabis got legalized in Colorado, and that was the first place really widely legal in the world. And then the snowball effect, and that's just plants. That's just cannabis doing that. And then now decrim in California, in Oregon, like for psychedelics in Washington, D.C. So it's not like yes, these people, there's humans doing this, but they're using plants and they're guiding them.
The medicine's working through
the
them.
medicine will connect everybody on the medicine. You can blindfold the entire world and give them all psychedelics and project their energy forward, and it'll all meet at some point. Yeah. That's what happens.
The future's like, this is the future.
Yeah.
Like this is coming, people. Like,
yes. No, it's real.
It is happening.
Well, and I think the mindset of that this is wrong, or like judgment. I think maybe that's what the thing is, like judgment. We have this like religious country. Like we're religious. Like, but what are we doing judging? Like forgiveness. Like let's forgive your giant, massive buildings that aren't housing anyone to sleep. But like forgiving people for wanting to live their own life, because the escape sometimes from poverty or struggle or pain or anything that can hurt you is plants. That's why the earth gave it to us. That's why she gave it to us.
So what do you think about these other psychedelics that are showing to provide a lot of benefit, like ketamine, MDMA, LSD, that aren't necessarily a plant? Like, what are your thoughts?
Oh, if they help people, by all means.
Right.
I'm not a ketamine fan personally, but yeah. No, isn't that the practice? Like the only real thing that exists is like medicine, because we're all dying. So we're all trying to heal ourselves, either physically, mentally, spiritually, to like have a better ride. Why else would we be doing anything we do every day? Like, why else would we be going and like beating on a keyboard? If you don't like it, don't do it. But like that's the real truth about our existence. So like, if people are suffering and those medicines help them, they should be taking those medicines for sure. I don't like them. Well, I don't like ketamine personally. Super weird, like disconnected feel, like almost like being drunk.
Okay.
But like in a black hole.
I've never experienced it, so I can't add to that.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, I mean, I've been experimenting on myself.
Have you had, I think we've talked on the phone about this, but MDMA for couples therapy?
Dude, couples therapy is huge. So yeah, me and my wife use MDMA probably every 3 months. I don't know. I wouldn't say it saved our marriage, but it made us play like kids, like be in awe of each other again, because, I mean, let's face it. How many married people, are just sort of going and not really like all about their wife, like all about their wife or husband. And so, yeah, we tried. I got a bunch of MDMA once and I was like, hey, you want to take some? And we took it in the living room. The kids were at the babysitters, just for safety reasons. And we took it in the living room and had the most mind-blowing night ever. And the next day we're doing that every 3 months now, because it allows you to be honest without judgment for each other. It's like a super connected medicine. But it's like you want to share with people. It's not like an alone thing. That's just something we want to do with people. And that's what, it's shit safe. Phase 3 clinical trials at MAPS, thank you for but that's the truth. Like we're here. So yeah, it's safe and good.
Yeah.
Couples therapy, I highly recommend it.
And this is coming to along, because obviously ketamine's legal right now, and a lot of people are using that to supplement with psychotherapy. But
there's a lot of doctors there's a lot of doctors, real doctors, that want to do other stuff. They're using ketamine to be inside of the medicine, the psychedelic medicine, but they're waiting for the other.
Yeah, they're coming.
No, it's real.
Field Trip. Have you heard of Field Trip?
Yeah.
So like all these places that are popping up as ketamine clinics, like once MDMA gets legalized, psilocybin, these things are going to come in, and these are kind of be like
the medical side,
the medical side of psychedelic healing,
which is important for the feel good statistic thing, people that need those like rooms with like the telescopes, microscopes, studies, but hopefully we don't miss out on the natural approach. Yeah. Because that's what the plants are telling us. But the money hijacks things, and they're like, we got to do this way. So, but yeah, that's the future. Here, I think in Austin, we're looking to create a place. I've been working on a place down in Mexico. We're in a land deal with an ejido, which if you know what that is, that's like a farming collective. Okay. That the Mexican government basically assigned to Mayan descendants to own land. And so they're selling part of it. We've been working with them for a while on a partnership, not necessarily a purchase. Seems more ethical that way, trying to avoid buying something or like owning it like intently. I think that like more of a shared use.
So what are you guys going to do with this land in Mexico?
We're working on getting a place that we can bring veterans and other humans, but veterans is going to be the primary driver to be able to live in a holistic way. Like, excuse me, basically reconnecting with like the foundation of living. I think that whatever happened to people, we've lost the ability to feel self-sufficient. So I think going to a place where we're growing our own food, doing our own practices, meditation, all the healing modalities, but really the foundational thing is like self-sufficiency, producing our own food, water, resources, fuel, all that stuff.
It's really a different way of life.
The technology's here though. Yeah. That's the real truth. The technology's here. The technology is like, dude, I'm building a bus as a mini example of it to move my family into right now, like solar and all that stuff, at a fraction of the cost of like, well, these people are paying new because people are buying new solar panels, for instance, because this is part of the Mexico thing. We're going to be shipping solar panels down there. But like people are buying new solar panels for $1.50, maybe $2 a watt. Like you can buy them for 35 cents a watt. You know what I'm saying? So it's the model now technologically where we can create a self-sustaining place completely cut off of the grid. And in Mexico, they don't fuck with us because these medicines are legal. So and now cannabis is legal there medicinally, and they're ready to fucking go. So
it's crazy because when I first was journaling about the Ascend project back in July, I think, I just started thinking of like, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? And this was, I think, fresh out of a medicine ceremony. I actually just got done with Toad. And a couple weeks later, I was just journaling a lot, integrating everything. And what came to me is a community, like a new way of living centered around self-sufficiency, creating art, expression, love, medicine ceremonies, just a healthy container for the human to live in. Because I don't believe that the containers we're living in right now are optimized for our beings.
We're this is like an ant farm.
Right.
That's where we live. That's what the community's built. So it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, do the houses come first or the people build the houses? You know what I'm saying? Like Houston showed up and it's like Truman Show everywhere. Like, is this an accident? Did we do this or did someone else do this? Yeah, that's what we've done. And the plants are like.
It's crazy. And what I was going to get to is how I didn't have dialogue with you before.
Right.
But then we come together and like, oh my gosh, we have this same thing that we wanted doing. And I've even talked to other people who I'm like, who are in this space of using medicines and changing the way they live. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your dream? And it's the same thing. Yeah. It's like the medicine's almost working through everybody to create a better container of life so we can live a better life integrated with these medicines.
Yes. No, I fully agree with what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, that's really the truth. So like, it's like the medicines are recruiting us. It's like the plants are recruiting us.
Really
well, it's like calling us home.
Yeah.
It's really calling us home. And I really believe that. Like I believe a lot of all the religious texts were more about microbiome and bacteria and microscopic things. And it's interesting when you look at it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's calling us home, and home is love. It's comfort. It's living in a place of sustainability. It's a place where now the technology's been bought and paid for. Everything exists. Like everything exists. Right now, if we shut off production, it's not like we're spouting babies from, the Netherlands. We have enough everything. We have 17 million empty houses and like 1 million homeless people in the United States.
Wow, I didn't even know.
No, it's wild. It's wild. It's wild. So it's just more the point where it's the mindset. Yeah. It's the plants. The plants are like make you start thinking about those numbers. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're doing in this creation process. It's like trying to figure out how we can best serve the planet, because that's us.
Yeah, and these plants are a direct connection with this planet. Yeah, man. And that's where that communication, and it feels like we're in a disconnect with nature, and it's like it's an ex-lover that desperately needs our healing, and one way is to take your shoes off and ground yourself with the human resonance of the earth. And even something as simple as that can make a huge change in your life. Yes. And I love doing that. Just like if you guys are going on a hike or just gonna be outside, just take your shoes off, just feel the earth and see how it makes you feel.
It's weird. Well, it's like the butterfly effect. You step on a butterfly or break a butterfly's wings, or a butterfly flaps its wings, or you breathe. Like we're in this, like, this is a soup. This is a soup, a fluid. It's all connected together. And I think that's the waking up part. The waking up part. Because that's to me, that's what makes me excited about myself. And I think that's the disconnection. We've started looking so much outside of ourselves with the psychology, that once you become fully in love with yourself, then you can like share that with everyone. But until then you're sharing like shadow you, when people are.
And you're not even conscious of it.
You're not conscious of it because you don't know, because you're sick. People are sick. We're in a mind virus.
You're not internally sound with yourself, and that's what these medicines seem to do is.
Well, you start taking care of yourself. You start eating fruit. You start eating vegetables. You start eating less meat. You start doing more things that connect you with the real world and with people. And the people that are still in the sickness, they look at you and they're like telling you, like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You're looking awfully thin, or you're looking this. Like, yeah, people take care of themselves. And then the people eventually go, how do you do that? How do you do that? And so that's like my thing is like, just set an example. I can't say that enough, because like the teaching thing for me is like, don't teach people things, but that's the truth. It's like, just set the example. If anything, if you set the example, if you live the example, people want to save the environment. You want to save the environment, live a minimalist life. Stop using your phone that was farmed by babies in the Congo for the cobalt. Just stop doing that. But we can't. We recognize the terrors of the world. So if we create the best example of ourselves, then the rest of the world will change with us, because love is a force multiplier. So fighting is a force divider. So it divides things, all fighting, even games, whatever, it's all fighting. And at its foundation, it's driving things apart. So yeah, and that's what we should be doing. It's like uniting the causes. It's all the same cause.
So where do you think technology plays into this? Because things like AI technologies and like our computers are advancing at exponential rates. So like, do you see that playing in with this naturalistic way of life, or like?
Oh yeah, definitely, fully. I think we made the technology. Right. We broke this shit apart and like put that creator.
It just feels like
it's the same thing.
We might not be using this technology that we
ethically
have in the ethical and most efficient way possible.
Yes. Well, that's the mindset. So let's say fantasy world. Fantasy world. All the people that run these companies need to be taking plants. They should be. And they should be for themselves. If they love their children, like, I know it's like soapbox. If you love your children, you love the planet, really, you should be you should be taking these. You should be taking it. Because all the science is saying They know that I'm not saying like we should be taking it like a pusher, but like try plants. Everyone should try it once. Like really, there's no reason not to. Like this weird world, it's like everyone should try it because it will cure the ills that are plaguing our society, period. That's my belief.
I agree with you.
But, we got to fight it.
Like, you have nothing to lose. I mean, I guess we could say it's illegal, so if you get caught with it, that's something to lose. But
yes.
At the end of the day, this thing's not toxic for your body. Scientific evidence, anecdotal evidence is showing that this will improve your life if taken in the right setting with the right container.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the key. The key is the container. Setting, intentions. So
what does a typical intention for you look like before a mushroom ceremony?
Normally I like to freestyle. I don't, as an intention setting, I like to set my widest boundaries of learning about myself. I think that's it for me. But some people specifically like to do targeted attacks, I guess you could say. Yeah, for me, I like the medicine to teach me.
Let the medicine guide you.
Yes, because originally I did have intentions, like I need to talk to my mom or I need to do this. It never works. It never works. I mean, it works. It helps you maybe to deal with and set your setting, but it's going to tell you what it wants to tell you. And yeah, I mean, it tells you what you need to know.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. One thing that I've been kind of struggling with to understand is when we talk about these communities, self-efficient, one with nature, like connected to the land, what would we do with like all this extra city space? Because I'm trying to figure out that.
Just let people live in it if they want to. Well, that's the whole the models of we already have everything we need. I mean, there's already enough of it all. When you set people free, they figure it out. It's like we turned off mortgages, all mortgages, anything that's backed by anyone. Like no more home loans. Period. All houses now. I'm just saying, in the fantasy world, like if the government ruled like Russia, turn off all home loans. All the houses are free. What happens? Everyone gets a house. Maybe there's gonna be fighting over some houses, but people more likely than not would rather go to a house that doesn't have anyone in it. But people are gonna do it. I'm sorry, I'm going through a scenario, but really the truth is there's an abundance. There's enough for people not to fight anymore, because that would stop everything. And then who would lose? Like a few people would lose. I'm not calling for that to happen. Not at all. Just saying in the Russia model. And that's when the agitation, it's like when you break a pattern, it's really hard to break a pattern because it's violent. Whatever it takes, it's violent or it hurts you. And so when you create the new pattern, it's more peaceful and loving. And that's typically what happens when any society does its thing. When France did its thing, when we weren't covering it, now they're more peaceful than it was because they're fighting for something that means something. And when this social media model of like squashing the information creates the need to like fight, it makes things worse.
So hypothetically, because I think social media is designed in a way that's not well for us right now, but the beautiful thing about it is the connection that we can have with other humans, like this podcast, for example. So like hypothetically, what does a world with ethical social media that's actually furthering our evolution look like?
It's honesty. Yeah, man. Like it's just the honesty filter. Like we put filters on everything.
No censoring.
No. Like what are we censoring?
Things that will take away money from.
That's it. I mean, it's the truth. Like what are we censoring? We're censoring that. It's just silly to do that because no one wants to forgive themselves. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. It's like and that creates violence, the censorship, because once the truth is seen, once the truth is seen that like all these medicines are being used all around the world legally
and have been
forever,
eons.
For eons, exactly. Well, no one's ever made a law. I mean, that's the truth, but that's when things happen. And it's because people need inspiration. They just need to see people doing it. And
yeah. So a way of life with these medicines integrated into society to you looks like a self-sufficient community.
completely freedom. Yeah. Well, the freedom, it will design itself.
Yeah.
I always caution myself into like making a hard, fast description, because I consider myself someone that's always going with the flow as much as possible.
Right.
So like the biggest foundation of like what I'm doing is like I'm going to buy land and I'm build a bus. But like I don't know like the containers of which these things are going to be in. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, like I caution myself into being so specific.
Like you don't necessarily know where it's heading, but you're just...
I'm trusting the medicine.
Yeah,
I'm trusting myself. Yeah, I'm just walking. Because the whole thing is an experience. Like when I'm 90 and I'm hopefully still mobile, but like maybe more limited, I'll have said I've done enough as much as I possibly could in the world with myself in whatever experience. It doesn't matter. But because I think that for so long I was so insulated and not able to experience, you know, emotions, my own self, and the plants like just chipped away at the like shell. And now I feel everything, and I want to feel everything until the end of time. You know, and I think for so many people that would be probably similar to the case.
Yeah. You
know, and I don't like to, for myself, direct myself in a direction. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why why we're doing the bus. It's like freedom,
right?
Like nomad. You know, for me personally, that's what I desire. But I think that the medicine teaches people all different things, and that's the cool shit. Like that's the fun factor of like you can learn a whole bunch of cool shit you didn't know, and it doesn't matter. Like we've created all these like super specific boundaries for everything. Super rigid, like driving on the lines, like driving. So if there's traffic and you want to go around it, you can't because you get a ticket. Like go to Mexico, it's free. You just drive around. Like when the traffic's backed up, motherfuckers get 3 cars wide and nobody cares. Cops will just be like weaving through it because that's freedom. Yeah. I mean, obviously they have problems. Freedom breeds other things, but that's what it does. It gives you the ability to be more free in everything. And so as these plants become more popularly used, people in power will have hopefully tried them. You know, whether or not to be like, hey, president, take mushrooms 5 times before you can be elected. Eventually, we're going to get to the age group that they've taken them, and they're doing good. I mean, it's already happening. Right. It's already happening in Congress. There's people. They're fighting the old assholes. Why we keep re-electing them, I have no idea. People were born before there was telephones. Almost.
So
sorry.
You're good. I agree, especially with like making laws about these types of things. Yeah. It's crazy. But where are you guys at with like this whole Mexico community? Like is it coming together soon? Or?
Yeah. So we were hoping for March, but COVID, man. Yeah. COVID has messed up just traveling potential. And also it's limited the ability for people to like want to do things internationally. Because as COVID gets worse, the U.S. is like tightening down its limiters, I guess you could say. Like my wife tried to get her passport. It took me 4 weeks, like through 2 years ago. It took her 12 weeks, and then they sent her a letter back saying that there's a delay. She needs to do another thing. So they're saying it's like 8 to 12 week process now. So they're delaying people, and now they're making coming back in the United States even more difficult. And maybe it's obviously for a reason, but I think that it's not going to do anything to anyone. You know what I mean? It's just for like the feel good thing. Right. It's like you have to have a COVID test 3 days before you come back in. Yeah. So it's making traveling less and making investments in international less likely. Yeah. So it's making things difficult for us.
Is it going to be a place where like veterans come and stay for a week or a couple months, or is it going to be like a permanent residence type of thing?
So I'm going to be there. I'm hoping to get this deal done and get down there in June-ish. But now, like I said, been delayed. But whatever time this year, and then go and start breaking ground on a Maloka, basically just like where people will do medicine. And so build that first, live in that, working with them to hopefully hire them as like partners, using I don't know, it's like like this whole reality that I'm trying to like do in my head is this new thing where it's like, you don't ask a bank for a loan. So going down there, we've already met with them a few times, worked with their healer. But like partnering with them to where we both use the land, but they let us build what we want to build on it. And then we incentivize them to help us because we're going to help them farm, help them do all that stuff. So this is a very complicated and delicate dealings that we're having. So I want to put like a big framework around it. But basically it's like the new, and what I see like the new model of like partnerships with people to give us sanctuary, because veterans are suffering. They're fucking suffering. Like 40% suicide increase in the Army since COVID started. And veteran suicides, like 60,000 veterans have killed themselves in the last 10 years or 8 years. So it's crazy. It's abysmal. And that's just a fraction of like the real numbers, which is 135 people every day kill themselves. You know, it's crazy. So what are we doing about it? Everything that we can use, everything that we can put in our bodies ourselves is illegal in the United States as a whole, as a meta. Obviously, there's states that are decrimming it, but in Mexico, you can use personal drug use is legal. Cannabis is now medicinally legal nationwide. So that's a target place for us to bring veterans down because we know this shit helps them. So through connections with some medicine people in Austin and other places, we're getting the foundational stuff behind us to be able to have a place where we can move veterans through the process. Because in reality, we leave the military, we leave the Army with no, like they give you like a week-long crash course on like being a human. Like, here's your week-long crash course, now go be a human. And then that's it. And the whole time you're in the military, like you're in this mindset of law and order control. Like there's a hierarchy, you belong somewhere in the hierarchy. There's an unlimited budget. You can do whatever you want. And you're in the real world and you're like, we need to figure it out. Like the Army's not feeding me anymore. Like I got to figure that shit out. And so people aren't equipped for that. You know, the whole thing, plus all their trauma of, you know, dealing with their shit, they're trying to figure it out and they end up fucking, a lot of times they're fucking hurt or having problems. Like, no, I'm not saying that, you know, most people deal with it well, but the truth is we should care about everybody. We do the statistics thing where they're like, 4 out of 10 are doing really good. But like, what about the other 6? So that's what we're trying to find. Like these people that need help and push them through these processes of just letting them figure it out in a safe way. Giving people a container where they can see that I'll be living there, growing food, dealing with, you know, the basically day-to-day stuff to live, to survive, I'm building the solar system, like the stars, but no, like a solar array. You know, so learning how to do all that stuff as part of the process and learning how to maintain that stuff as like a civilian. And the food thing for me is like the number one thing. Cause if you can produce your own food, who can stop you from living? And then once you have that basic tenet, the freedom of self-sufficiency, you can really conquer the world. And there's a foundation, like unbasic training in the military. So in the military, they like want to beat it into you. Like you're a part of a program, you're a part of a machine. We got to undo that. You got to know that you're the one. Like you're the one. Like you're like a fucking lion in the prairie. That's what we are. We just built all these cool like gadgets, but we're no different. You know, hairless apes, whatever you want to call it. But that's what we are. We're these animals. And so we got to teach people how they can survive on their own. And once you can survive on your own, that's it. It's game over. So for me, like doing this process, learning about all this stuff, as I say, like as an example or teaching, like I'm trying to do this as my own example, like setting my own example for myself, as the plants have taught me, like miniaturizing my life, because I care about the environment. I care about climate change. So the best thing to do is like smaller footprint. So shrinking that stuff and then turning more plants, doing this as a life is like created by the plants have taught me all of this stuff. Yeah. So, you know, I'm happy to be able to do this shit now because this is the fucking future and you're seeing it everywhere. So yeah, so I know I go on like a billion tangents, but
no, I loved it. That was awesome. This is so noble because we are in a scary epidemic right now when it comes to suicide rates.
Oh my God.
Depression, PTSD, like it's never been worse. And I feel like it's not talked about enough.
No.
And I love what you're doing, man.
Well, I'm trying, and there's so many organizations that are doing it too. I mean, let's face it. No, let's not face it. Let's be honest. Like there's 30 million veterans. There's 30 million veterans. Like we all need each other. Like that's like this is like the rallying call. Like we all need each other, and we need each other to set example. So yeah, I mean, not to like say, hey, but like, yeah, people should look at people that they aspire to be. You know what I'm saying?
So for any veteran listening to this, like where can they connect with you or learn more about this?
On my Instagram, at Barefoot Benjamin.
Barefoot Benjamin.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, my bus build's on there too, so it's kind of cool. I mean, just goofy people, but I don't know. I think I like the idea of like, it's like normalizing being a fun family. Like I have a wife and 2 kids, and like, I think we've devalued like a family unit. You know what I mean? Like everyone's so official. Go to work, go to sleep, like do your business. Like we've devalued the family unit. So like,
and it sounds like that's what you're getting back to with living in the bus.
That's part of the plans. The plans are teaching that. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
I mean, hopefully people don't come arrest me for not putting my kids in school. I'm just kidding.
Is there still like regulations that like tests that they have to take and stuff like that?
I don't know the specific. Me and my wife compartmentalize certain things. And she's all in that. Whatever is required, she's doing. I know that. So, because I trust her. That's where the love comes in, and that's where the MDMA helps. It's absolute trust. So, like as people, I'm sorry, going on another tangent, but as people, we feel like we have to confirm if something's being done right, and being able to be so connected with your other half that you don't have to even know what they're doing. So, like the control person is like, I need to make sure that this line is cut perfectly on a square, and so I need to watch you cut that line. But like the forgiveness part, which is what the MDMA gives to each other, allows you just to not have to look at it and know that it's going to be done perfectly. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Which is helpful.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend personally haven't done MDMA together yet. Yeah. But just hearing people like you and your wife in these stories, it's calling our names.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a real tool. It's a real tool. Now, obviously it can be abused, but anything can. Xanax, but it's a tool. And I think that the normalization of these things are what's important. And I'm super appreciative you're doing this stuff. Like this is really what it's about, because people don't know. People don't know. They grow all the way up to like 90 years old and they try marijuana on YouTube. And they're like, oh my God. Like that's the reality of what people are living in.
I think the first step is awareness. People have the awareness, and then once they have the awareness, they can have direct experience. Once they have direct experience, then they're just soaring on their own and doing their own thing. But that's exactly what this whole podcast is about, is I want to give people like you a platform to speak your truth, man. And like, thank you for doing this, and thank you for driving up here. I appreciate it.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure, man. I love driving. That's the love you find with medicines, with plants. All right, let's go in context. I'm not taking plants all day, every day, constantly, 24/7, but I do microdose mushrooms. I find it helps me with my highs and lows. But yeah, it's like being in love with yourself. Like really, that's all. That if you're in love with yourself, you can love everyone in the whole world.
Yeah, I honestly can say that I don't think I had an ounce of love for myself until I started integrating these plant medicines into my life.
When the people do the like purity thing, where they're like, it's not you, it's the plants. Well, no, because all these things are endogenous in our bodies. The plants are just sort of like hyping it up. No different than like a pep rally. So like you're still getting yourself. You're just getting like more of it.
Yeah, it almost feels like, and I don't know if this is statistically or scientifically true, but we always hear we're only using 5%, 10% of our brain or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, but the analogy I'm going with is like, it almost feels like these plants just give you more access to like, say, 40.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Well,
they give you more access to your brain and allow you to reprogram it in the way you want to.
So let me give you a really anecdotal example. So there's this thing called, I don't know the word for it, but it's like when you can smell color, or you can taste sound.
Yeah, I've heard.
Or like hear. It's like a sense confusion. So that's like your neuro connections not connecting fully or misconnecting, And through continued use, but through, using plants, through that goes away. So you become more, I think, maybe more sensory, more sensing to the world.
Yeah, I
like
was
more connected.
Even with like obviously bigger doses, but microdosing
Yes.
too. On days that I do microdose, I like colors are more bright.
Yes.
I can feel things more.
There's some sciencey people that said some sciencey stuff about this for sure. But yeah, no, it's real. The studies show the connectivity in your brain is like 10 times or something more. I'm sure you've seen the color chart.
It's just
it's
blasted.
crazy. Yeah, exactly. So the plants speak for themselves.
Yeah, they really do. And I think the biggest thing, and it's hard because people nowadays, they think in this scientific language. So I think we have to talk about these things with that type of language to get people on board. But at the end of the day, these are really only things that can be experienced through direct experience.
Yes.
And if you have a spiritual experience on mushrooms, you're not going to need to go look at scientific studies to validate what you went through.
No, it's because that's all it is people put some boundaries and frameworks around things and measured them.
Yeah.
Like, so but that's it. Like the reality is the experience itself.
Absolutely. Direct experience.
Direct experience. And it can't be replaced. And we have a tendency to do that, as people. I guess I'm like doing we talk, but like we do. We like all these Discovery Channel, everything that you can see with your eyes. It's like the eyes are deceiving us. It's like we deceive ourselves because we create all this entertainment that you can receive visually, which is the same as in the real world, but it's the only sense you're receiving. So like if you went out on a hike in like Brazos Bend and saw a gator and saw some snakes, that would be awesome. But if you saw it on TV, you would still get the same data in your brain, but your body doesn't experience it. So it's like we think we're getting enough. So we're addicted to watching these things, but we're not experiencing them. That's like that separation from nature, which is causing mental health crisis, I believe. It's like the foundation of it. Because if you are part of the world, then you don't wonder where you are, where you belong. And so many people are wondering where they belong. Like, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Like, I was told I had to do this. Like, if you belong with the earth, that's all that matters. I sound like this like radical hippie person, but I mean, it's the truth. It really is the truth, So it's the experience that's key, and turning off the devices for sometimes. I mean, I like my fucking phone. I'm not turning it off all the time, but as an adult, as a person that cares and loves themselves, you should build in your own schedule. People should be going outside, smell the air, look at the sun, like check it out. The sun's badass. Like that thing's it's dying to give us life. It's literally dying to give us life. Like it's transferring its energy to us. It's wealth. It's giving it to us.
Disconnect to reconnect, I think, is absolutely essential for this epidemic that we're in, and for just every human to just experience what we call life to the fullest extent. Like, I feel like we're shorting ourselves of a lot of experience when we're just in boxes all day, glued to our TVs, not touching the earth, not being connected with nature. I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you now that you tell me, but for the people listening, I don't know about you, but I personally want to experience all of what life has to offer and not limit myself to this cookie cutter way of life that's been laid out for me.
It's so crazy. Yeah, like we were saying in the beginning, it's like misery loves company, and like the subconscious, because like you can see like emptiness in people when you talk to them. It sucks, and I don't mean to say it like in a judgment way. It's just like a forgiveness way, where it's like, I wish I could tell you the answer, like it's just like I wish I could tell It's like the answer is not. I don't know the answer. That's why I can't tell it to anybody. It's the plants. It's these things that the earth gave us. And I mean, I hate to sell it as like a champion of it, but like, it's really the truth. And it's sorry, I'm on repeat.
You're good. One question I just want to leave you with is, what are you most excited for?
Freedom, dude. Like freedom. Like, just, I don't know if anyone's ever felt free, but I don't feel free most of the time. And when I go certain places, and medicine helps to feel free. I think that's like the pursuit of it. It's like freeing because you're like, your body's like a boundary, like perimeter bondage. Mm-hmm. And we naturally, like, you agitate, if you like hold something down, like it wants to be free, or wants to like, at least experience its own boundaries. You know what I mean? Like if you put it like a 2-foot fence around a dog, like it's going to stay there for enough time to like get sent down, and eventually it's going to just jump over the fence. It's not going to stay there forever, but it may come back there. And that's the truth. That's the love thing. We create all these boundaries as people to like, because we think it's love. We think I love you, so I don't want you to get hurt. So here's a boundary for you. I love you, so I don't want you to do drugs. So this is a boundary for you. But like in reality, that's not love. That's not love. Love is freedom. It's like, you ever heard the old adage, like, if you love something, let it go. Mm-hmm. Like, it's true. If you love it, let it go. Because if you, as a human, have lived in a well-intended life and done what you need, what you feel is good and just, then your kids and the people you connect to and the things you do will leave a positive imprint, and you can be satisfied that the world will be better because you were there. Mm-hmm. That's all intentions. And that's like, really, I get nervous or anxious about when I say this, but it's the truth. It's like, we are all intentions. It's emotional intentions. And if you move through the world with love and forgiveness, that's what other people are going to give other people.
Mm-hmm. I changed my mind. I want to ask you one more question.
Sure, go ahead, dude.
So without using your name, your experiences, your accomplishments, who are you?
Dreamer, man.
Dreamer.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's show. The best way to show support is really to leave a rating and write a review. I'm not doing this for money, so it just helps us to continue to expand our audience and have amazing people like Ben on. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you.